Hi, this is Natalie Rydstrom here from SportsBookReview.com. Newcastle face Arsenal for their first Premier League match of the weekend. Now, the start of the new season has seen ups and downs, and whilst Arsenal is the predicted favourite to win the match, at this stage anything can happen. But luckily for us, we have an expert to hand to guide us through the bets for the match. Introducing BMR contributor and sports writer Richard Prew to the programme. He's going to preview the match, and do stay tuned for his top tip at the end. Now, both teams come from scoreless draws, and neither team has been performing well in the new season. So what's the possibility of yet another upset in the EPL calendar?
Well, I think there must be a reasonable chance of the upset. As you say, neither team has been in particularly good form. And I think the surprise of those two would be Arsenal, where there were many people's suggestion that they would begin to challenge Chelsea for the title this season. They were backed in from around 8.0 to around 4.5 in the weeks preceding the season, and then went on to lose their first game, win their second game away at Crystal Palace quite scrappily, and then last night on Monday Night Football drew 0-0 at home to Liverpool and were under pressure for most of the match. And really it was only Peter Cech's performance in goal that allowed them to win a point. And yet for this match, Arsenal go to Newcastle at around the 1.5, 1.6 mark for this game.
That's right.
Which looks pretty short. Of course, the problem is, are you brave or confident enough to suggest that Newcastle are good enough to beat what is, after all, a top four side in most people's estimation? And there, you're taking quite a bit on trust with Newcastle, who've 2 draws and a defeat in their first 3 games, and are undergoing quite a change in personnel and philosophy under Steve McClaren. They had a very good result actually at Old Trafford last weekend in the early game. They drew 0-0 and actually looked extremely organised. At home, though, against Arsenal, you're hoping that if you're going to be backing Newcastle, that Arsenal continue to lack the cohesiveness and the slow start to the season that they've had so far.
Yeah, and Arsenal is, for me, it's pretty low to sort of take the risk that they will win there. 1.57 Bet365, the draw's 4.33 William Hill, and Newcastle 6.3 888 Sport. Is the outrights a market you will stay away from?
I think it is. I mean, I'm not. I mean, if this was the Arsenal of last season and the Newcastle of last season, then Arsenal are around 1.5, 1.6, would be one of many people's bankers of the weekend. At the moment, though, I think that looks not too attractive, but I'm not actually brave enough to suggest Newcastle at 6.3 either, so it's not a market that particularly appeals. A couple of markets that appeal a bit more are, Arsenal have only scored 2 goals in 3 matches.
That's right.
They have started slowly there, primarily, I think, because Alexis Sanchez had time off after the Copa America in the summer and really had no pre-season. He was a substitute for the first match, scored in the second match, and then didn't like scoring last night. And many Arsenal fans would suggest that Arsenal are a striker short, with the transfer window closing next week, so that's something to look out for. Newcastle have a new striker in Mitrovic. They have Wijnaldum, who they signed from the Dutch league, who looks a very threatening attacking player as well. But the temptation must be that this could be a very tight game, and under 2.5 goals can be had for 2.1, 2.15 in that region. That tempts me more than backing overs at around the 1.8 mark in that market. Certainly more than the outright.
Yeah.
So that would be, suggestions that it could be 1-0, 1-1, those type of scores, more than seeing something, with a lot of goals, and it would be my suggestion.
All right, so you're suggesting here a low-scoring affair. What is the sort of the top tip that you've got for our viewers today, Richard?
Well, I had in mind on the handicap, you can back Newcastle with a goal start at 2.5 with William Hill, and I don't think Arsenal in this form are going to be winning by a couple of goals or more. Certainly, they can click at any moment, but there's no particular sign of that. Wenger himself last night said that Arsenal so far this season have been extremely average. Let's suggest that for another game that might continue to be the case. Newcastle +1 on the handicap, getting greater than even money for a side that's improving, albeit that that's likely to be inconsistent. That would be my suggested tip.
All right, wonderful. Richard Prew, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.